The sterile silence of our apartment, usually a comforting backdrop to our shared existence, suddenly pressed in on me with an almost suffocating weight, amplifying the hollow echo of his parting words. Work trip, babe, just a few days, I'll miss you, spoken with a casual affection that now feels like a cruel, calculated mockery. Mark, my husband of 7 years, had kissed me goodbye with a practiced tenderness just hours before, his luggage already stowed in the trunk of his car, ostensibly bound for a conference in Chicago, a seemingly mundane business endeavor that I had, without question or hesitation, accepted as the simple, trustworthy truth, never once imagining that the meticulously packed suitcase held not the tools of his trade, but the shattering evidence of a life built on a foundation of insidious lies, a dark, festering secret that was about to erupt and consume everything I held dear. His absence, typically a brief, almost negligible ripple in the placid waters of our domestic routine, usually meant quiet evenings spent with a book or catching up on neglected tasks, a peaceful solitude that, on this particular morning, was subtly, unnervingly, replaced by a restless disquiet, a faint, almost imperceptible hum of unease that settled over me, a chilling premonition of the profound betrayal that was about to shatter my entire existence. It was a mundane task, innocent enough in its inception, that inadvertently became the unwitting catalyst for my grim discovery, a simple domestic chore that unexpectedly transformed into the archaeological excavation of my shattered future. When I remembered Mark had forgotten his favorite noise-canceling headphones, a crucial item for his long flights, and instinctively headed to the spare room where he usually kept his luggage, intending to retrieve them and perhaps even playfully mail them to him. A small, loving gesture of my unwavering thoughtfulness. His large hardshell suitcase, still sitting conspicuously by the door. Its metallic gray exterior, a stark, unforgiving monument to his recent departure, seemed to pulse with a strange, almost malevolent energy, drawing my gaze with an undeniable, almost magnetic pull, a silent testament to the secrets it so meticulously contained. I unzipped it. The familiar rasp of the zipper, a jarring sound in the sudden cavernous silence of the room, expecting to find the usual neat rows of business shirts, socks, and perhaps a laptop, the typical accoutrements of a professional work trip. But instead, my eyes, wide with the dawning horror, were met with an unexpected, jarring tableau that instantly, brutally, annihilated any lingering flicker of hope, any desperate, pathetic attempt to rationalize or misunderstand the damning evidence before me. There, nestled provocatively amidst a handful of his own neatly folded t-shirts, lay a tangle of delicate, shimmering fabrics, undeniably feminine, undeniably intimate, undeniably lingerie, its intricate lace and silken sheen, screaming of clandestine encounters, of passionate nights spent in the arms of another. A sickening realization that sent a jolt of ice through my veins, confirming the initial, gut-wrenching truth. This was unequivocally not mine. My breath hitched, a silent, painful gasp escaping my lips, as the raw, visceral pain of the infidelity, its brutal reality slamming into me with the force of a physical blow, temporarily eclipsed all other thoughts, leaving me breathless, reeling from the profound sense of utter annihilation. The immediate betrayal of her existence, of her intimate presence within the very confines of his packed luggage, overwhelming my senses. It was a flimsy, provocative black lace teddy, intricately detailed with a hint of rose embroidery, its barely there fabric a stark, agonizing contrast to the sensible cotton sets I usually wore, its small size and daring cut screaming of a body, far more slender, far more adventurous than my own, leaving no room for doubt about its rightful owner. No shred of possibility that it could have been an accidental inclusion from our shared laundry. My stomach lurched, a sickening knot of nausea tightening in my gut, as the cloying faint scent of a sweet musky perfume, subtly clinging to the delicate fabric, assaulted my senses. A scent that was definitely not mine, a smell that now felt like a physical invasion, a tangible manifestation of her illicit presence, tainting the very air of our home, transforming it into a suffocating chamber of deceit, making my blood run cold, then boil with a furious, righteous indignation, a white-hot rage that threatened to consume me whole, twisting my gut into knots of sickening fury, and then, as if the universe itself had decided I hadn't suffered enough, as if there needed to be a final, grotesque punctuation mark on the sentence of his treachery, my fingers, trembling uncontrollably, brushed against something stiff, something cold, something utterly unexpected, tucked carefully beneath the seductive, damning lingerie, almost as an afterthought. yet its very presence screaming of a calculated, premeditated cruelty that transcended any mere act of infidelity. I pulled it out, my heart hammering against my ribs like a frantic bird trapped in a cage, each beat a painful throb of impending reckoning. And what I held in my trembling hand was not another piece of incriminating clothing, not a hidden love letter, but a pristine, official-looking document, its crisp, legal paper feeling impossibly heavy, cold, and utterly terrifying, emblazoned with a formal seal that shone with an ominous gleam under the room's harsh light, a notarized divorce petition. My breath caught in my throat, a silent, choked scream, as my eyes wide with a dawning, sickening horror, scanned the formal wording. Petition for dissolution of marriage, clearly citing irreconcilable differences. The date of filing meticulously noted, and most agonizingly, his signature, bold and unmistakable, already notarized. He'd been ready to serve me, meticulously prepared to rip apart the very fabric of our shared life, to erase our entire history, to abandon me with a cold, legalistic precision. Without a word, without a warning, without a single hint of his insidious intentions. This was not a spontaneous act of passion, not a momentary lapse in judgment. This was a profoundly calculated, meticulously planned act of abandonment. A premeditated betrayal of monumental proportions that went far beyond mere infidelity, confirming a chilling level of deceit that stripped away every last vestige of my trust, leaving me utterly shattered, hollowed out, and consumed by a profound, agonizing sense of utter annihilation. The profound, agonizing weight of that notarized divorce petition, its cold, official language starkly outlining the premeditated termination of our 7-year marriage, slammed into me with the force of a physical blow, leaving me breathless, reeling from the profound sense of utter annihilation, making the initial betrayal of the lingerie, sharp and painful as it was, feel almost trivial in comparison. A mere prelude to this far grander, far more devastating act of calculated cruelty. The sting of the infidelity, initially a searing burn, now morphed into a dull, throbbing ache, overshadowed by the raw, gut-wrenching realization that the man I had loved, trusted, and built my entire future with, had been meticulously planning my emotional and legal erasure, preparing to discard me with a chilling, dispassionate efficiency, while simultaneously orchestrating clandestine affairs. A level of duplicity that was almost unfathomable. My mind, a maelstrom of conflicting emotions, cycled through white-hot rage at his cold-blooded deceit, agonizing despair at the loss of the future I believed we shared, and a profound, terrifying sense of betrayal at the sheer contempt he had shown for our shared history, our intimacy, and my unwavering trust, leaving me utterly disoriented and nauseated, caught in a nightmarish web of his making, feeling utterly discarded and worthless. The casual tenderness of his goodbye kiss, just hours earlier, his feigned affection, now felt like a grotesque mockery, a final act in a meticulously crafted performance designed to lull me into a false sense of security before he unleashed this devastating, premeditated attack on my life, making my very soul ache with a profound existential weariness. A cold, terrifying calm settled over me then, replacing the initial shock and gut-wrenching pain with a chilling, resolute clarity, because I knew, with an absolute, unwavering certainty, that this betrayal, so profound and multifaceted, demanded not a spontaneous emotional outburst, but a meticulously planned, strategically executed confrontation, a direct mirroring of his own calculated cruelty. My hands, though still trembling with the lingering aftershocks of discovery, now moved with a newfound, almost surgical precision, as I systematically photographed every shred of evidence. Every damning detail from the lingerie, the notarized divorce petition, and even the subtle indentations left by other items in the suitcase, ensuring that his treachery would be undeniable, indisputable, an irrefutable testament to the depth of his deceit, because this reckoning, this final, devastating expose, would not be a private scream lost to the walls of our fractured home, but a documented, undeniable record of his monstrous lies. A chilling testament to the brutal, soul-destroying truth I had so painfully unearthed, a truth that would now be undeniable to anyone. I spent the next 24 agonizing hours moving through our shared household like a phantom, outwardly maintaining a facade of normalcy, answering his occasional checking-in texts with strained, monosyllabic responses, while inwardly I was a relentless investigator, meticulously dissecting every past interaction, every whispered promise, searching for the hidden cracks in his carefully constructed persona. A profound shift in my perception that left me feeling utterly detached, utterly numb to the comfortable rhythms of our life together. The thought of confronting him immediately, of unleashing the torrent of my pain and rage, was tempting. A visceral urge that throbbed constantly beneath the surface. But I resisted, knowing that raw emotion would only serve to complicate the inevitable. To dilute the impact of his profound betrayal, I needed to be calm, collected, utterly in control, ensuring that when he walked back through that door, his carefully constructed world of lies would collapse with maximum devastating effect, allowing me to finally understand the full, incomprehensible depth of his monstrous deception, and to uncover what he confessed next. A truth I instinctively knew would be even darker, more twisted, more utterly soul-destroying than the shocking betrayal I had just unearthed. The key turning in the lock, a familiar sound that once signaled comfort and security, now echoed through the silent apartment like a death knell, heralding not the return of my loving husband, but the inevitable confrontation with a stranger whose capacity for deceit had proven boundless. And my heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of impending reckoning as I heard his cheerful footsteps approaching, completely oblivious to the carefully laid trap, to the abyss that awaited him. He walked into the living room, a casual smile on his face, his eyes briefly meeting mine. A fleeting glance of feigned affection before he gestured vaguely towards his still-packed suitcase. A silent invitation for me to take care of it, a final, casual insult that ignited a cold, hard flame of resolve within me. "Welcome home, Mark," I said, my voice unnervingly steady. Devoid of the emotion that raged within me, each word hanging in the air like a heavy stone, immediately wiping the smile from his face. His eyes narrowing slightly, sensing the subtle shift in the atmosphere, the sudden palpable tension that had replaced our usual easy intimacy. "Did you have a good trip?" I continued, my gaze unwavering, holding his, watching as the carefully constructed mask of his normalcy began to crack, a flicker of confusion, then dawning dread, spreading across his features. Without another word, I walked over to his suitcase, its metallic exterior a stark, silent witness to his crimes, and slowly, deliberately unzipped it, revealing the neatly folded lingerie, its delicate lace, a stark contrast to the brutal reality it represented, and the pristine, notarized divorce petition, its official seal gleaming under the harsh living room light, presenting them to him with a quiet, almost surgical precision that left no room for denial. His initial reaction was a terrifying kaleidoscope of emotions, a flash of pure, unadulterated shock followed by a desperate, almost pathetic attempt at denial, his mouth opening and closing, like a fish out of water, no words forming, then a rapid succession of panicked stammering, his face draining of all color, transforming into a sickly, ashen gray as his eyes darted wildly between the damning evidence in the suitcase and my unwavering gaze. I can explain," he finally choked out, his voice a pathetic whisper, devoid of its usual confident resonance, but the conviction was gone, replaced by a desperate animal fear that stripped away any remaining shred of his carefully constructed persona. "Can you?" I countered, my voice still eerily calm, cutting through his pathetic attempts at explanation like a cold, sharp blade. "Can you explain the lingerie? Can you explain the notarized divorce petition, dated 3 weeks ago, ready to be served? Tell me, Mark, what exactly were you planning to do to me?" The questions hung in the air, heavy with unspoken accusations, forcing him to confront the full, horrifying magnitude of his calculated deceit, and as he met my gaze, his eyes now wide with a profound, defeated terror, revealed a chilling, sickening truth, a confession he clearly had never intended to utter, a darkness far deeper than any infidelity or abandonment I had already uncovered. He crumbled then, not with a sudden collapse, but with a slow, agonizing surrender, his shoulders slumping, his gaze fixed on the damning contents of his suitcase, as if they held an undeniable power to unravel his very being, and the words that finally tumbled from his lips, a broken torrent of hushed, desperate admissions, confirmed my darkest suspicions, revealing a monstrous reality that chilled me to my very core. "I'm in debt, Sarah," he began, his voice hoarse, barely audible, yet each word landed like a crushing weight on my soul. "Not just a little, millions. I lost everything. Years ago, gambling, bad investments, things spiraled. They threatened me, said they'd come after you, too, if I didn't get out, if I didn't cut all ties, if I didn't make it look like I left on my own terms. They wanted me to disappear completely, to start over somewhere else, alone, to work off what I owed them, and if I didn't cooperate, if you were still connected to me, you'd be next. They promised they'd make your life a living hell." My breath caught in my throat, a silent, choked scream, as the true, horrifying implication of his words washed over me. A chilling tide of fear and profound terror that transcended any emotional pain, because this wasn't just about infidelity or abandonment. This was about criminal activity, about a pervasive, shadowy threat that now directly implicated me, that had infiltrated the very sanctity of our home, twisting our love story into a grotesque, desperate escape plan orchestrated by ruthless, unseen forces. The divorce, the lingerie. It was all part of the plan, he choked out, his eyes pleading for understanding, for a flicker of forgiveness. Though I knew, with absolute certainty, that no forgiveness could ever be granted for such a profound, life-threatening betrayal, for such a calculated, monstrous deception. I had to make it look real, had to make it look like I was leaving you for another woman, that I was just a philandering husband, to throw them off, to keep you safe, to make sure they didn't come after you. His words, intended as a desperate justification, merely twisted the knife deeper into my already bleeding heart, because the sheer arrogance of his decision, the profound condescension of believing he could orchestrate my life, my fate, behind my back, all while ostensibly protecting me by subjecting me to such a cruel, agonizing deception, was utterly unforgivably insulting, proving that he saw me not as a partner, but as a helpless pawn in his terrifying self-made game. The work trip, the carefully packed suitcase, the pre-notarized divorce petition, even the anonymous lingerie of it was a meticulously constructed charade, a terrifying facade designed to orchestrate his disappearance and my abandonment, leaving me utterly vulnerable, utterly exposed to a danger I hadn't even known existed until this chilling, devastating confession. The betrayal, initially a sharp, agonizing sting, now morphed into a profound existential terror, as I realized that the man I had loved was not just a cheat or a coward, but a deeply entangled criminal, a man whose desperate actions had irrevocably placed me in the crosshairs of an unseen, dangerous threat, forcing me to confront not just a broken heart, but a future fraught with uncertainty, fear, and the daunting task of untangling my life from his insidious, dangerous web. The complete shattering of my reality, the horrifying realization that my life had been built on a foundation of such intricate, terrifying lies, left me breathless, my world spinning uncontrollably as I grappled with the terrifying truth that what he confessed next was even darker, far darker than any infidelity, threatening to consume not just our shared past, but my very future, leaving me with a cold, desperate need to protect myself from the dangerous shadows he had so carelessly dragged into my life.